Hey guys, this is Rurouni K95 here. Welcome to start to do another day for a manga reading log for the month of January of 2023. Silky smooth for this to be all on that as well. Because just to let you know is that I have wanted to do a manga reading log every month as well, particularly especially the ones that I have been reading that I picked from my manga library I have, because I have a whole bunch of manga out there as well. So today I'm going to be picking about five of these titles of manga I picked from my manga collection, just to get you a little heads up for this as well, accordingly as well. Yeah, because I'm always wanting to be on the brink of how I'm started getting into how I'm being devoted of how I'm becoming an over-the-top manga reader as well, accordingly as well. I picked 5 manga books, 5 titles from my manga collection, just to get you a little heads up for this as well, particularly as well. So, let's dive into this, because it's gotten to a point that I'm started basically becoming a manga reader, or more of a than not just a anime watcher, but manga reader is how I started getting in the game as well. FYI, just to let y'all know for this as well. The first manga I just read particularly in this entry of how I'm started getting into the whole series in this, and that is Saint Young Men. In my opinion, particularly because this is like your typical series of how Jesus and Buddha as everyday life of how like roommates in that particular one, especially of how they use in biblical figure like characters, particularly of how they've been depicted, especially how it's in the manga as well. However, there is an anime adaptation of Saint Young Men, but I have never seen the anime. But I mean, you thought the anime one is a lot more different than the manga, but apparently though I'm starting getting into the manga more as well, because I know that this one I read is in Japanese though. However, there is a lot, because I just love how they put Saint Young Men in the spine of these manga books in English on here, in these Japanese printed manga books on there. Yeah, because particularly of how I wanted to come for that as well. However, it is a manga I have read in Japanese. There's a lot of Saint Young Men produced manga out there, because it did got a English translated from Kodansha Comics on here as well. Particularly of how I wanted to come across for this. I mean, this is like your everyday life, and the whole slice of life type of manga, especially for like Saint Young Men as well, particularly of how accordingly. However, this has an ad for the Japanese DVD and Blu-ray release of the anime on there, which I have never seen the anime, to be honest, but I thought the manga is new for me, because this all has got to me as how I wanted to read this. Okay, once again, another manga that I just recently read in this particular one here, that I have wanted to read as well, because I think this is part of the Shonen Jump series on here, mangas on here, and that's Tagami Bachi, because letter B, which is basically below the title of Tagami Bachi on that one, Yeah, because this is the 11th volume in this particular manga series on here. Because this is particularly a Shonen Jump manga. Okay, in this 11th volume, about of how Largo Lloyd was basically announced to, director of the Beehive wanted to save the life of a marauder for return, of how demands have to be taken to the leader of the Reverse, of how will the letter B's have to penetrate to the heart of the rebel organization, of how his hero Gauchi, or whatever you want to pronounce it, the character's name in the manga, had to return home at last, particularly how things had to be looking for lag when he discovers the shocking truth of how this happened in this particular. What can I say? Because, like most mangas that are part of Shonen Jump, Tagami Bachi is the one that definitely takes the cake, especially for whenever I come by to read a manga like this as well. As far as I know, particularly, of how this explains particularly of how I wanted to come across of how I wanted to read manga like this as well. Particularly of how, like most Shonen Jump manga, this is one of them, particularly. I have always wanted to come across for this. And another manga that I just rereaded, particularly, as how I wanted to do some for this as well, and I think this is the one, which I'm guessing that this particularly, well, you guessed it, which you get the picture of how I wanted to come by to read this one here, and that is Deltora Quest. And this is done by Makoto Niwano on here. Because this particularly of how it's like your typical fantasy manga, how it's particularly of how this explains about how these having something about they wanted to escape from Norad's leaf and hit when the company continued for their quest to the city of the rats in that one. When the city has been swarming with rats in that one, the heroes have to spend the entire night fighting for their lives when they get close to the city's true danger. Yeah, because in this particular manga volume, they wanted to fight for their lives, especially when the city is swarming with rodents in this particular volume. Like most manga, this how has ever learned, particularly, of how I wanted to come by for this. But then again, just to consider how I wanted to get into the Deltora Quest manga, because I have heard interesting things about this particular manga, because I know about this one, because I thought this is new for me, particularly, of how I have been recently wanting to come by for to do something accordingly. Yeah, because they didn't know that it was swarming with rats in this particular manga like this. Unlike the previous volumes of the Deltora Quest manga, this has got to my attention of how I just wanted to know about where I want to come by for, or this accordingly as well. When I was basically wanting to figuring out a fact for this as well, and yeah, this has gotten to the thing as for that as well. like most other fantasy manga, this one has basically gotten to the point and outs of this particularly. And as far as I know, particularly, of how I wanted to become to the point out, particularly for every manga. Yeah, I think this is published by Kodansha Comics on here. However, this was actually based on the original story by Emily Rada, but this is illustrated by manga artist Makoto Niwano. Yeah. Excuse me. So this commonly explains to the fact of how what I wanted to come for this accordingly, of how I wanted to come by for this one as well. That's why. And another manga that I just read that I picked from my manga collection is that I wanted it to realize that didn't know there was some shot panels on this manga, and that is Choco Mimi Volume 1. Yeah, because this particular manga particularly explains about how they're best friends in like 8th grade. I mean, Choco is the serious and reliable. Mimi is the silly and spoiled rotten. They have both commonly known. What they have in common is the flair for fashion, which basically the new boy transferred to the all-girls class, particularly of how he wanted to be just Choco's type, especially of how will a crush have to damaging a girl's friendship. Considered Mimi's crazy antics might scare this new kid away in that particular one. For this as how, unlike most mangas on here, however, this is published by Viz Media, which is made in conjunction with Viz Kids on here, particularly. I mean, especially if you even, yeah, this manga may be perfect for the kids to read on there as well. I mean, especially if you married to your wife and you have children, this is a perfect manga to have your kids to read in there as well. Unlike most of them as well. As far as I know, particularly, I guess you could call that as well. However, this is actually a former library copy that I bought at a library, which was like 25 cents at a local library. Especially for paperbacks on there. However, at the end on there, for other manga that I wanted to get, oh, there's an ad for Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, which has a fold-out Japanese manga poster on there. The original volumes of the Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind manga, the ones that were published by Viz Media, including how it's available in a Japanese format, which it has a fold-out poster in each volume. I really wanted to get Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, because I didn't know that there is actually a manga for Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, which is something I might want to get as well. Because despite that, it was created by legendary Hayao Miyazaki that I really wanted to get. Especially in the ads I noticed, as well as Kira Toriyama's Kawa manga, which is basically another one of Akira Toriyama's manga. I've wanted to get to my case, particularly of how I wanted to check out mangas, especially that are more interesting. Especially the ones that you don't know what's about, but you wanted to check out, particularly. And finally, at last, another manga that I just wanted to read, and this is the third entry of how I wanted to come by for this, and that is Anima. Yeah, this is basically another manga that I just read at last as well. This is done by manga artist Natsumi Mukai, which is particularly how this explains about how they're particularly of how societies and how they're continuing their search for the exceptions in a world of how it's labeled to anything but normal, especially for Kuru and company arrived in a town filled with hopes and dreams of how this character named Genius and his army showing up once again of how they wanted to create problems for the Plus Anima. Will he ever find a place where he and his companions could call home? Or if they ever remain wanderers and outcasts forever for the rest of their lives? That is the question, especially for the manga like Plus Anima. Yeah, because this is particularly just considered. I wanted to come by for a manga like this one. Unlike most manga out there, this has, far as I know, has gotten to the point of how I wanted to come by for this as well. Yeah, because this is particularly of how I wanted to read this manga as well. Well, you get what I mean, particularly as well. Of how I wanted to do this accordingly as well. Just to consider how I wanted to start getting into the series as well. Like most mangas that never got anime adaptations, or most other ones that have got anime adaptations, this manga has introduced me of how I wanted to start becoming a manga reader on this one as well. Particularly of how I wanted to come across for this as well. Of how I wanted to do this. This has gotten my case particularly for that as well. However, most manga artists, like, say for example, let me see, who did the Choco Mimi manga? Konami Sonoda. Yeah, another Japanese manga artist on there as well. For overall, I have read 5 of these manga books for this particular reading log on here. Because I have been reading a lot of manga, particularly of how... But then again, just to consider how I wanted to become a digest for how I wanted to come by on reading manga as well. Unlike most every other ones in general of its kind. Excuse me. But what I think mostly about this is that I have just wanted to know particularly of how I wanted to do this as well. Well, you know what I mean as well. And this particularly of how I wanted to come by to do something like this as well. Because I have been doing this likewise on here, particularly now that I have own about 200 plus volumes of manga in my manga collection. I have picked about my other mangas that I wanted to read that I haven't read. For example, because despite that I have been doing manga reading log videos for every month of every year, particularly, there's a bunch of those that I have not read. Let's see, that I have on my list, especially for other manga, like for the upcoming manga reading logs for the month of this year on February, which is in about one more month as well. For example, like I have picked like Yu Yu Hakusho, Inu X Boku, Dragon Ball, Inuyasha, Urusei Yatsura, Fist of the North Star, Rama 1/2, Ceres, Celestial Legend, Fushigi Yugi, Saint Young Man Volume 10, VB Rose, the first 3 volumes of Gravitation, Say I Love You, Itome Sushi Shokunin, Kirara no Shigoto, and Oh My Goddess. Those are the ones that I wanted to pick for every month of February for manga reading log, which I got it planned in another month I have as well. Same goes with my manga reading logs for March, especially for this year, in another couple months that I planned. For example, like Yu Yu Hakusho, Fist of the North Star, Rama 1/2, Saint Young Men, Fruits Basket, Revolutionary Girl, Lutina, Reborn, Itome Sushi Shokunin, Kirara no Shigoto, Oh My Goddess, and Tensho Tenge. Let's not forget about these as well, because it's gotten to my theory is that it turns out, particularly, I wanted to become a manga reader because I have been reading a lot of manga, a lot more than I had with reading graphic novels. Well, I have read quite about 49 graphic novels as well, particularly. But there's one thing I wanted to be aware for this. Like, the ones I wanted to get on there for the graphic novel video ones on here that I wanted to review, like, there's ones from Dark Horse Comics, like the great ones from Stan Sakai, such as Usagi Yojimbo, which is basically one of Stan Sakai's samurai take on Yojimbo, but with, like, anthropomorphic, animal characters on a graphic novel. We'll talk about that another time, once I can get a copy of that graphic novel, because I'm starting getting into the graphic novels, everything, like, especially the ones I wanted to pick from Stan Sakai as well, because, well, it's no stranger than reading mangas as well, because I think I have read a lot of manga in the past, particularly, especially the ones that I can read from my manga collection, or especially, same goes with reading mangas that I have been reading from the library, to prove my feel of how I wanted to turn out, that I wanted to realize that I have been reading over, like, I believe, well, technically I have read 44 graphic novels, but the manga, however, I have been, how much? I think I read over 1,000 manga books, especially the ones that I borrow from libraries. Yeah, I think I've read about over 3,000 manga books, like, maybe 3,000 plus manga books I read, especially from libraries, or the ones for the, I believe it was my, well, you guessed it, I believe it was my, well, let me guess. Yeah, from the libraries, as well as reading it from my collection of what I own. Especially the ones I got are from library book sales, whether it's former library copies, or even the ones that were donated to the library. Let's not forget about this as well. because I wanted to realize that I have been reading over 3,000 plus manga had in the past. Because I have been reading a lot more than I had with reading graphic novels. Because I have read only about like 44 graphic novels, as far as I know, particularly. Yeah, because I think I have read a lot of graphic novels as well. Because this is how it's got to the thing, though. Same goes with reading light novels. I have been reading graphic novels likewise, as well as reading light novel likewise as well. I haven't been reading some light novels in a while. Despite that, I haven't been buying a light novel since 2022, which was the Surprise of Haruhi Suzumiya light novel I bought, which it turns out it was basically the last light novel to own, particularly because I have never collected any light novels since last year, because I haven't been collected any light novels in a while. Just for the collecting of that as well. I mean, I have no problems with light novels. I am no stranger to reading light novels. Well, my first light novel I think I read was Rurouni Kenshin Voyage to the Moon World, since I believe it was November 2014, that's why. I mean, it's more different beside from reading manga, that's why. So that's going to be it for my manga reading log for the month of January of 2023 for today, you guys. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's something to say for this one. Well, despite that I have wanted to read a manga like these as well, because I picked 5 of those from my manga collection, because this how it has got to the point of where I felt that I have wanted to start to become a manga reader, because I have been reading over 3,000 plus manga books I had in the past. Because I have been reading so many manga, a lot more than I had with reading light novels as well. That's for the thing, though. Hope subscribe for content. Anti-Planet Patreon link will be in the description down below if you want to check out my channel. Be sure to smack the subscribe button. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RoniK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel as a newcomer. Especially for watching the channel, particularly because I'm starting getting into the Blu-rays and DVDs on here. Especially everything from Criterion's, Lorber libraries, and even some Shout Factory releases on here. Same goes with anime, DVD, and Blu-ray haul videos, like my entire ones on there, as well as some manga reviews, manga analysis, manga reading logs, manga reviews, as well as movie reviews and redo reviews and movie analysis on there. Because I'm getting into becoming a movie reviewer, as well as reviewing episodes from certain TV series, as well as cartoons on there as well, in case you're wondering as well. And also, be sure to smack the like button if you enjoyed the video, hit the notifications bell button, be sure to get notified also as well for more latest updates, just to keep you noted. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Let me know if you like as well. And keep it otaku for this manga reading log for the month of January of 2023, because this is the first manga reading log of 2023, that's why. This is RoniK95 saying thank you for watching my video, and I'm glad you liked it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Hope you have a great day. This is RoniK95 signing off, and thank you for watching my video, and I will see you soon for more videos. Take care.